everyone, coming at you today with a message from your future self, wanting you to know a couple of important things. I am seeing a small town or a small area where a community was interwoven. This could be from your past. Maybe you spent a time, if not grew up in, a small town. Suburbs counts, even though it's, it can be highly populated. You could have still grown up in like sort of like a small subsection of a town, or you could have had, maybe you vacationed for periods of time in a small community where you got to know people over time. Interpret this as you will. This could also just be a summer camp or some community that was small, tight-knit, and not in a city specifically. This was people that you were living in either like the outskirts of a town or in a rural area, or just maybe a woodsy part of a suburb, specifically not a city. That may be important because you may be someone who's in a city right now, or you may be thinking of moving to a city, or you may be located right near a city that you work at, so a city has an impact on you in some way right now, even if you don't live there. It's important for you, for your life. I have a couple things I want to say. There's a quote from, I believe, Plotinus, which says, it basically says, take thy thing and abscond from the crowds, in lesser words. It's like, you don't need a million things, you just need one thing. And you need to being apart from the crowd can show us something about ourselves, perhaps so that we can then give to the crowd in a meaningful way. That's an ancient philosopher. I'll put the quote below. There's a book by Petrarch called My Secret Book, in a similar vein. He's a philosopher from, was it the 1450s or something like that? Maybe 50, yeah, something like 1450s or something. Petrarch talks about, one thing he talks about is romantic love in terms of philosophy. He breaks it down that I want to simplify it to love and nobility being linked. And that nobility in action, chivalry, really. Petrarch was writing like in the times where chivalry and really feudal practices were sort of still in place. I mean, in terms of like landowners and some old time shit. Why am I mentioning that Petrarch and Plotinus? You may have been in a situation where someone that you were in relationship with caused not only excess things or stuff, maybe you both indulged in some activity, or maybe shopping, maybe you both were materialistic together. And this person at one point became not chivalrous to you. They were not, maybe they were like, maybe that was what attracted you to them, that they were philosophical. The person could also be an energy, a job, like maybe your boss this is about, or could be family, but it doesn't have to be romantic is what I'm saying, but it could be romantic. At some point this person became not chivalrous towards you and not loving, and Really, none of Plato talks about several kinds of love. None of those kinds of love were involved. And I bring up the Plotinus quote, take thy thing, and I think it's take heed of the crowd and take thy thing, and I forget I'll put the phrasing, but it's like, it just means like less is more, basically. It's like Marie Kondo. But also like, you may have to offload a lot of stuff, is what your future self is saying. Literally and figuratively, metaphorically, symbolically, emotionally. You know, Louise Hay says that all of our physical issues are caused by emotional baggage. Your future self is saying, once you get rid of some of this stuff, and not only sort through it, but get rid of it. It could be like bags of stuff. Maybe you have, you know, the physical clutter that we accumulate over the years. It's metaphorical. Every object represents something in our life. Maybe you have some old trinket from some old relationship, and you look at it, and it, you know, it's not serving you. It's actually draining your energy. The psychometry of that object, the psychic matter involved, is negative for you. I'm also seeing, I obviously I'm a nerd and I've read a lot of books. Okay, no, I'm not trying to flex. This is just someone who's had a lot of time on their hands. I'm not gonna tell you why, but I guess isolation, because when I was a kid I was kind of different. I had friends, but it was more like one-on-one healing situations. It wasn't like some big group party. Those are my friendships. But anyway, so there's a play called Our Town and a book called The Bridge to San Luis Rey. And both are written by Thornton Wilder, who is a writer from, was it the 1890s, maybe early 1900s. And then I think he died in like 1932. I feel like these dates are coming out of my butt, but they probably are around when he was writing. Anyway, so he wrote about really the internal voice, which is why his writing is so good. I believe it's sort of like modernism, but like with really a strong narrative voice. So Our Town is about this town, and we're hearing from people in graves describing life in the past tense and seeing scenes from their lives, and it's beautiful because we're getting narration about people's experiences and people's feelings from the afterlife as it's happening. The spotlight will come on and the narrator will tell us what's happened, because the play is about how the whole town is dead at this point, but they're looking back on their lives. So as time goes on, this person dies, that person dies. It sounds like a grim play, but it's a beautiful play because your higher self wants you to know that, like, it's all just love. Like, all the things that we experience here, Ram Dass says we're all just walking each other home. He also says you can do it with or without the anxiety, but we're all basically going to the same place. The same thing's going to happen to all of us. If you were to narrate your life, if you were to narrate something, if you were to be once removed from what's happening and narrate, what would you say? If you were to look in on yourself, say you're looking in a window at you're chopping carrots, you're, I'm asking you to look in your mind's eye now, the third eye. And what would you see about that person? You. What are they feeling? You can write this down or just take note. You can close your eyes and actually do this. So visualize seeing yourself from outside, maybe just the window, I'm sitting in my car, I could visualize myself sitting right here staring at myself. And as you do that, what do you notice? What are they feeling? This person. What's on their mind? What might they be not seeing about their situation? There is a really cool thing called the Johari. I think it's a chart. It's really just a combination of the people who invented it, the psychiatrists or the psychologists who invented it. It's a graph where it's like 4 quadrants, which is, it's like what is known to us about ourselves, what is known to others about ourselves and us, what is known about ourselves by others but not us, and then what is not known about us by ourselves or others. So I guess I'm pointing to blind spots here, is what the reading is becoming about. And the Bridge of San Luis Rey is a really different kind of internal, there's a lot of internal monologues, like there's several dialogues of people as they're crossing this bridge and the worries on their mind and what they're going through. And the bridge becomes a symbol for life, and really the precariousness of humanity. And I'm gonna put a poem in the, not to be super literary today, but there's a poem called The Bridge by a poet I like. I will write the name below, that really capitulates what I'm talking about. And that's really what your higher self is wanting me to tell you. I'm realizing that this bridge is a bridge not only to, that you're building for yourself in your life, whatever that may mean for you, but this, you want to realize this, we're all on this bridge, we're all on the bridge, we're all in between, we're all not, there's things that we don't know if the bridge is going to hold as we cross. We're all just doing our best, and that connects us with all of humanity, with every human, which is a beautiful thing. That knowledge of the fragility of life. And the bridge becomes a metaphor for not only crossing cultural or social or economic or whatever boundary it may be to see humanity and within us all. You know, we're building a bridge to others, to reach out. But it also becomes a resting place rather than a transition place for all of humanity to be held. So that's what your future self wants you to know, to not worry during this time, to realize that you're resting on the bridge. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day.